Guys, after I've completed this first video, I've come back and I'm adding this edit to the start. And, one of the comments I've gotten from you guys that has been consistent, other than the Allison guys who are still pissed off about the Allison review where the motor was about to fall off the boat, go back and read the comments if you don't know what I'm talking about. But I have been, I have really tried in all these reviews to make them neither a hit piece where I tear a boat down, nor a commercial where I sell a boat. I just tell you guys my honest opinion about the boats that I review. And as I reviewed this iKon, at the end of this review, I felt really negative about part one. And I just want to tell you, if you're going to watch part one, watch part two as well, because I like this boat a lot. But you're not, after I watched my first video, I didn't have the sense that I like this boat a lot. So just trust me, I didn't set this up in any way other than to do exactly what I've done in the past, which is review the boats and say, here's what I like and here's what I don't like. So let me just say again, and I'll say this throughout these videos, if you want a 75-mile-an-hour boat, this ain't your boat. If you want a big, what appears to be well built, with some thought beforehand on how they did some stuff, solid feeling boat, very fishable boat. I think you're going to see the scoring on this boat. This is a video series, this specifically this iKon. I haven't seen the other one yet, but it's something worth watching. So that's what I'm going to leave it with. We'll dig right into it here. And again, watch all of it. Don't just watch one part and make a judgment, guys. Okay, guys, this is going to be the iKon LX21 review. As you know, we've spent several days in the boat now. Let's jump right to performance, because I know there's going to be a lot of guys curious about the performance of the boat. We'll go through performance, then we'll come back and we'll go through the boat kind of piece by piece, and the trailer. So let's jump to performance right off the bat, guys. Really solid hole shot. I rolled it to the right here because of where I was pointed, but it rolled over nicely. Not a lot of bow standing up, so you just lose line of sight for a second. I'll talk about how the prop is pitched right here in just a second, but I'm going to make a pass by myself, then I'm going to pick a guy up, and I'm going to make a second pass, and then we'll talk a little bit about the prop and performance from there. Let me also point out, guys, some of what you're seeing here is an exaggeration of the camera, because the camera is on a YOLO tag 4, maybe 5 feet above the gunnel of the boat. So you got a levering effect, and you see this a lot in YOLO tech video footage. The boat's running a lot smoother than what's appearing that it's running right here. All right, so that's first pass with the boat. So it's a 250 Yamaha HPDI. I think that's what they're still called. And it's turning a 24 pitch Tempest. It looks to be in pretty good shape. The boat ran 70.5, and again, I'm pretty lightly loaded. I got 38 gallons of fuel in here. Live wells are empty. It's pretty lightly loaded. Well, let me show you what I got in here. So I've got about 10 rods. And then I got some tackle, right? So, and I'm gonna talk more about this later, this system, but bear with me, guys. So I got that many in the bottom, and then that many. Actually, I probably have more in the front of this boat because of that ridiculously deep box than I ever carried in the front of any of my bass cats, other than rods. And rods weigh your rods. They weigh, pound and a half, 2 pounds a piece. But anyway, especially in a rod stock. So that was a little over 70 downwind, not a lot of wind, and about 68.5 going back upwind. But the boat hit the rev limiter. 6150 on the Garmin was telling me, and it hit the rev limiter going both ways. So, gosh, maybe you can turn a bigger prop on this boat. I can't imagine, and it got a great hole shot. When I've got a Fury 23 pitch at the house, we may flip those props out and run that 23 pitch and see how it performs, because
there's a little bit more legs in the boat. This is not going to be a fast boat. You don't buy a boat this size to go fast. I equate it to buying a Jaguar and putting a 250 on it. I think a Jag with a 250 is going to be a little bit faster than this boat. It is going to be a little bit faster in this boat. It doesn't have near as much beam or near as much width carried forward, which we'll talk about later. But you know, you don't buy a boat this big with just a 250 on it to go super fast. You're buying it because you're fishing big water, or you have a lot of people on the boat and you just want to be in a big, comfortable boat. Whether it's this boat or a Ranger 521 or, you know, a Jag. So I was really impressed with the hole shot though, man. It just bounces right over on the hole shot. So we'll fish out of it some more, and I'm going to show you some features of it I really like, but we got plenty of time to do that, so let's go fishing again.
So I did not put a clock on the hole shot. I've done that in the past, but you know, it's a feel thing, and the boat has actually. I didn't feel any difference hole shot between one guy and two guys. Some performance difference, but not really any hole shot difference at all, and no loss of line of sight. It actually may have had a little bit better hole shot with two guys in it. All right, so again, we added a couple hundred pounds. The boat's pretty lightly loaded. We got 38 gallons of fuel in the boat. Pretty good conditions, just a slight wind. And with the second guy in the boat, it drug us away from the rev limiter. So we're turning at best downwind 59.50 and running in the low 68s. I think 68.2, 68.3. So again, man, when I load this boat and fill the live wells full, it's gonna slow it down quite a bit more. I really think tournament loaded the way this boat is set up and propped, which you know, now having seen it pulled it off the rev limiter, it's probably not propped that badly. This boat's going to be a 64 to 66.5 mile an hour tournament loaded boat. We're still going to put it on the water again. I've really loaded the boat up now, and we'll see how it performs under some varying conditions. But again, what I'm really curious about is rough water in this boat, and we'll get that done before we grade this boat out here in the near future. And you know, guys, I just also want to say, you know, I ran a 521 for years, and a 521 tournament loaded is not a 70 mile an hour boat. I know some guys on here are going to claim they are, but they're not. It's a mid to high 60 mile an hour boat. I had a tournament at Grand Lake once with wet carpet and a big guy in it, and I couldn't run 65. So this is not uncommon in a boat this big for these types of speeds.
So just curious about how the boat performs in big water without being in big water yet, and I can already tell you it's going to be good. The boat would hold plane, a little bit nose up attitude, which probably could be corrected with prop at 20 and 21 miles an hour, which is super slow. No porpoising at all like we've seen in some other boats. The one thing I did notice in this boat, so I have most of my tackle in the middle. I believe this is a single tank boat, gas tank. The live wells are empty, but at low speed, it's got a pretty significant list. Matter of fact, even just sitting here in the driver's seat, it's got a 4.1, there we go. So it's got a 3.5 degree list to the starboard side. And I noticed as I ran the boat, I'm gonna do it again. I pulled the kill switch. I noticed it really lists heavily to the starboard side at slow speed until you get some wind under the boat and it'll level out. You'll see that in a lot of boats. My Lynx did it a good bit. I don't remember it being this substantial, but it is odd. It's the most I've noticed in a boat. I don't know that it's going to have any, you know, you're not going to run around at 29 miles an hour very often, so I don't think it's a big deal once you get some air under the boat, but I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. It's got a great hole shot. right there at the end, I steered back to the port side a little bit and flattened it out some, but you could see there, it's a significant list. It's a 6-7 degree, pretty consistent list. Again, I'm not saying good or bad. I've seen it in other boats before, but it is certainly noticeable in this boat. I'm sure you put another big fat guy on the left side over there, it's going to take care of a lot of that, because again, you've got console weight and 200 pounds of fishermen on the starboard side, and all I've got on the port side is trolling motor and a couple of rods, which I've actually balanced out with the rods on the other side. So there's a lot more weight on this side. That's just the way it is, and oh well, I want to point that out. All right, boys, I've recruited Travis. Say hi, Travis.
How are y'all?
Travis, can I put you on film?
You betcha.
We're gonna check.
No.
We're gonna check this out, but this gives us a good chance to see if we have the same listing issues we did. So let's check it on right here.
You know, I thought about this, so this levels it out. And the more I thought about this and edit, if you consider the fact this is the widest boat we've been in, so at 98 inches, and it also has the widest. I'm almost certain at the seats as well because of the way the boat's manufactured, or the way the boat's designed. So by yourself, you're sitting even further from the center line than you are in any other boat, which probably adds a little bit to that listing factor. But we added another guy, and you really don't see it anymore right here. All right, so performance score on a boat is not all about how fast you go. It's about how you handle and rough water, obviously, ride and safety. So we will get to that probably in the grading video, because we're going to go ahead now. We're going to break down the first part of this in two pieces, and then we'll do part 3 on the iKon LX21 will be the grading video. But let's go through the boat. A lot of things I really like about the boat. A couple things that I don't like more about the trailer than the boat. But let's go through all of it, and I'll share with you my thoughts on it. So let's go, guys.
Okay, so I've noted before, this is a great big boat. And so the barn in Zavala, the doors are 12 feet wide. Where I store my boat here in Richardson, the doors are a lot smaller. So I'm gonna measure the width of the boat, the width of the trailer, because you're not getting this trailer in here unless you are stone cold sober, because you've also got to do it at an angle. So if you've got a similar situation, this is not a plus or minus. This is just purely informational purposes for you guys. Let me grab my tape measure. Okay, so as we said before, this is a really wide boat. It's a 98-inch beam boat. There may be a wider boat out there. If it is, I don't know what it is, but let's kind of get straight up and down on this. I'm gonna say right, we give ourselves a tiny bit of leeway. But that's basically straight up and down at the tires. I look right straight down, that's 103 inches wide. So I don't know how wide that door is. Now I'm really curious, but 103 inches is really, really wide. So these are 10-foot wide doors, which is kind of what I thought they were, right at 120 inches. But that gives you very little margin of error to get in and out of any kind of a tight boat storage. So just something to consider if you're buying any of these great big boats, is what that width is of the fenders, side to side. So the boat's beam is 98 inches. I'm really curious where that beam, the width is. So I'm going to measure 2 widths, guys. Most boats, widest part is going to be right there. So that's right at 98 inches back there. But here's what's interesting. So as you recall, looking down the edge of this boat, it feels very much like the Star Trek Enterprise. Right there, it beefs back out, which is why you get such a big front deck. Check this measurement out. And I've not measured this on any other boat. Sorry for the bad angles, but check this measurement out. That's basically 97 inches right there. So most bass boats go from back to front, getting narrower the whole way. This one gets narrower and then it gets wider again. And right here, mid-boat, you really only lose less than 2 inches. So it's a very wide boat. Now, we did a video earlier this year We did a video earlier this year at the Classic. We measured the width of this boat fishing surface. I'm gonna move some rods, guys. Okay, the back seat pedestal hole, the front acreage is, golly, that's 71 inches. There may have been a wider boat. It's actually more 71.5 inches. That is incredibly wide at that back hole. And then at the back of the trolling motor, you still got a tremendous amount of width. So that boat is 63.5 inches at the back of the trolling motor hole, if you will. I think, we'll put the video, I'll put the stats up right there, but I think that is by a long ways the biggest front deck on the boat. And talking to the iKon guys, one thing I did discover is the boat dimension wise, you lose a foot right here if you go to the 20, the LX20 versus the 21, but you still have a real similar, you don't notice it because the front deck is so big, you're really not losing very much. We'll do those same measurements on the LX21 when we get in that boat. So since we got our tape measure out, let's go ahead and measure the seat measurements we were curious about. And yeah, I've already got a bunch of junk in this boat. Didn't take me long. Okay, as soon as we finish this, I'll jump back out and I'll finish the trailer. But since we got our tape measure out, let's look at the seats. And this is, I'm gonna scoot the seat all the way back. It's adjustable seats, which you guys know I really like. Okay, that's the seat all the way back. So seat measurement number one, floor, the top of the seat, 14 inches. Back of the seat, the console, 30 inches. Now, what I've been thinking about is, this is where it is or isn't comfortable in a boat. So their console comes in and then goes flat across. But when you got your foot in the hot foot on the hot foot, this to me is the measurement that matters. Is how much space is there between the floor and where your knee goes onto the console. .21 inches. So I did not measure that in any other boats. This kind of came to me later as I was thinking this through. This is a very roomy cockpit. You know, we shot that video at the Classic where I walked through the crowd and picked out 6 foot, I think I picked out guys who were 6'4" to 6'8", and put them in every boat, every 20 or 21 foot boat at the Classic to see what they fit in best. And this was one of the ones the guy got in it, says this is really roomy. They like the Jag, they like the big Skeeter. The Nitro surprised me, the guy wasn't comfortable with it. I'll put a link to that video right there so you can go check that out. So let's hop back out of the boat and look at a few other things on the boat that I want to point out to you regarding the trailer.
All right, guys, that's we're 20 minutes into this, so let's take our break here. When we come back for part 2 of the iKon LX21 review, we'll be outside the boat. We'll give you some more measurements, then we're going to get back in the boat, talk about fishability and some other things that I was really impressed with the boat. So stick around. Part 2 will be with you in the next couple of days. Thanks, guys.